I took a second job to pay for my stepson's therapy. Last night, he read his essay aloud. The man my mom married is just a placeholder. My wife smiled proudly. I clapped quietly. This morning, they found my side of the closet empty. 41 missed calls. I didn't leave a note. They didn't deserve one. My work boots were gone. My shaving kit. A third of the hangers. That was all it took for the silence to become deafening. I know because she texted me at 6:13 a.m. Are you at the job site early? By 6:45 she was calling. By 7:10 she'd looped in her sister. Her mother by 8. And by 9 o'clock her voicemail was crying. Not words. Just breathing. Funny. She always hated when I worked extra. Said it made me smell like drywall and resentment. But she liked what the money bought. Especially when it meant Jamie, her son, not mine, could keep seeing his therapist twice a week at $180 a pop. Because men have to make peace with the past before they can be real fathers. That line, that exact sentence. I still hear it when I close my eyes. She said it once during a couples therapy session I didn't even want. Said it with her hand on Jamie's shoulder. Said it like it was gospel. The therapist nodded. I nodded. Jamie looked bored. But that essay last night? That was real. Jamie read it aloud at family night. His school hosts it every quarter. Parents, siblings, even grandparents gather in a poorly ventilated gym to hear the kids read their truth pieces. I bought a button-up shirt from Target. She said not to overdo it. He doesn't need you to play dress-up. Just be there. I was. He took the mic in front of a crowd of folding chairs and stale cookie trays. I smiled. He didn't look at me. His voice cracked once. Just once. Then he read. The man my mom married is just a placeholder. That sentence split me open with a surgeon's precision. Not rage. Not grief. Absence. He went on. He tries hard. Fixes things. Pays for stuff. But he's not the man I wish was here. That man died when I was 8. That man smelled like campfires and coffee and read me stories about dragons. This man reads receipts. They laughed. A few parents actually laughed. Light, sympathetic chuckles like he was making clever social commentary. My wife? She smiled. Beamed. Pride. I clapped. 3 times. The minimum socially acceptable number. Then I went home, showered, and packed everything I bought with my own money. Which, as it turns out, wasn't much. The closet looked the same. Just one side a little more honest. I didn't slam any doors. I didn't delete my number. I just left. And now, 3 hours into the quiet, I find myself in a parking lot I used to sit in during my lunch breaks. I'm watching the cement cure on a half-finished sidewalk, realizing I've spent 5 years building something no one intended to keep. People keep telling you that love is patient, kind, enduring. But love without acknowledgement is just labor. And I am tired of being a placeholder. Edit 1. No, I didn't leave because of the essay. That was just the final curtain. You don't walk out on your life over one sentence. You walk out because you finally accept the pattern isn't changing. Edit 2. She found the hotel. Left a note at the front desk. You matter. We see you. Please come back. No signature. But the handwriting was Jamie's. He's 15. And smarter than he lets on. Which means he knew what he was saying. Which means he meant it. Which means this time I won't. Update 1. She brought him with her. The knock came at 7:12 p.m. just as I was finishing a gas station sandwich and debating whether a third night at the motel would make me look dramatic or just tired. I didn't answer. But I watched from the gap in the curtains. Jamie stood next to her, his hoodie sleeves tugged down over his fists. She held a grocery bag probably filled with things she thinks I forgot. Things she wants to hand me so she can feel generous, helpful, in control. He looked different. Not like he'd aged, more like he'd finally noticed he had to. I watched her knock again. Harder this time. Then I heard it. His voice. Muffled but sharp. You told me he knew. She said something back. Too quiet to catch. Then. You said he knew it was a joke. Silence. You said it was fine because he didn't cry. That one hit me. He said it like a confession. And then he left. Walked away. Not in anger. Just turned and walked. She stood there a moment, eyes flicking toward the window, pretending she couldn't feel me watching. She followed him eventually. The bag is still sitting outside the door. I haven't opened it. I don't need anything inside. They left me out of the story. Now I get to write the rest. Update 2. I opened the bag. Not because I wanted to. Curiosity isn't desire. It's just gravity when your hands have nothing better to hold. Inside, a pair of socks, a book I'd never read but mentioned liking in a conversation she clearly forgot the context of, and a birthday card Jamie never gave me, still in the envelope, sealed, unmarked. Just a sticker of a dragon on the front, the kind I used to put on his lunchbox in 3rd grade when he wouldn't eat unless something roared at him first. I opened it. The card read, "Thanks for being here, even when I didn't ask you to be." His handwriting. Slanted. Sharp. Dated 2 months ago. I felt nothing. Or maybe I just don't remember what feelings are supposed to feel like when they arrive too late. I've been living out of motels. 1 room at a time. It's easier to organize your thoughts when everything you own fits in the back seat. 3 days ago, I saw Jamie again. Not in person. A video. He'd posted a school project, some kind of digital story. Animation and voiceover. A timeline of his life. Every chapter had a title. 2008 to 2013, The Before Time. 2013 to 2017, Grief and Ice Cream. 2018 to 2023, The Placeholder. 2024, TBD. And there, in one of the slides drawn in crooked Photoshop layers, was me. A stick figure with a blue hat labeled House Fixer / Receipt Collector / Quiet Clapper. The audio glitched for a moment. I had to replay it 3 times to catch what he said. I used to think people who didn't shout were weak, but silence can hold a lot of knives. He didn't say my name, but he knew I'd see it. Kids are cruel, but they're also deliberate. He wanted me to see it. So I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I called someone. Not her. His therapist. I left a message, tell him I watched it. Tell him I liked the knives part. That night, I slept for the first time in 4 days. I don't know what happens next, but I bought a notebook. A real one. Not for journaling. For documenting. Because one day, someone will ask me where I went. Why I stayed gone. And I want to be able to say. Because they laughed. Because she smiled. Because he performed my extinction like it was a monologue. And because I made silence into my own language. One they'll never be fluent in. Update 3. The motel manager's name is Neil. He's got a stutter that disappears when he's angry and a photo of a girl in a graduation cap on his desk. The kind of man who says you good instead of asking if you're okay. I told him I might stay another week. He gave me a $20 discount and said sometimes distance is cheaper than regret. I've started walking at night. Just circles around the strip mall parking lot behind the motel. There's a Dollar Tree, a dry cleaner that's always closed, and a nail salon with flickering pink letters that say open no matter the hour. I count steps. I count streetlights. I don't count calls anymore. She stopped calling 5 days ago. Jamie didn't. Voicemails. Messages. All of them in that same too formal, too careful tone he used to reserve for apologies. But none of them say sorry. Just, hey, just checking in. Not sure if you still have this number. I get it if you're mad. I didn't mean for it to come out that way. Last night, he left one that started with breathing. Then quieter than I've ever heard him. I don't remember what his voice sounds like anymore. My real dad. That's probably why I made you smaller. So I could keep him bigger. Then he hung up. I stared at the wall for 6 hours after that. Didn't blink. Didn't cry. Just watched the shadows shift from one side of the dresser to the other. Like time was peeling the room in layers. And then I did something stupid. I went back. Not to stay. Not to talk. Just to see. They didn't see me. I parked half a block away. Watched the windows. The porch light was on. She never leaves the porch light on. That was always my thing. The recycling bin was overflowing. Bottles of kombucha, LaCroix, a crumpled pizza box with Jamie's favorite cartoon printed on the side. They'd ordered in. Celebrating something. The curtains moved once. A silhouette tall, male? Not Jamie. She has a brother, but he lives in Seattle. This man had a beard. I left before I could decide if it mattered. Today, Neil asked if I'd be checking out Sunday. I told him I didn't know. Then I drove. Not far. Just far enough to see the neighborhood blur into nothing. There's an old rest stop off I-74. Hasn't been updated since the 80s. The vending machine still takes coins. I bought a Snickers, then sat on the bench behind the dumpster, the one facing the woods. I pulled out the notebook and wrote his name. Just once. Jamie. Then I wrote the words I never said. You didn't break me, but you made me tired. Page after page. Not a letter to him. Not a suicide note. Just a record. What she said. What he did. What I gave. What they took. And something else. A new sentence. This story doesn't end with me coming back. I mailed the notebook today. Addressed to his therapist. No return. Just a note on the first page. This is for him when he's older. When he's ready to learn what placeholders do when they stop being silent. Neil didn't ask what was in the envelope. He just offered me a different room. One facing the alley instead of the highway. I accepted. Quieter. Tonight I'll walk the strip again. I might count the cracks in the pavement. Or I might just listen to the sound of my own footsteps. Either way, for the first time in months, I'm not waiting to be let back in. Because I've realized, being a placeholder isn't about being temporary. It's about being invisible. And now that they can't see me, I've never felt more real. Update 4. I didn't expect the box. Neil buzzed my room just after noon. Said there was a delivery at the desk. No return address. No handwriting I recognized. Just a plain cardboard box. Taped so cleanly it felt surgical. Inside, everything I ever gave them. A collection of receipts, manuals, even the warranty card from the dishwasher I installed 2 years ago. A Father's Day card with my name crossed out and rewritten in smaller print. A hoodie Jamie used to wear, now washed, folded, returned. My wedding band. Still warm from her palm. There was no note. Just a thumb drive. Neil offered me a beer. I said no. Went back upstairs. Locked the door. Plugged the drive in with the same dread you'd feel lifting a coffin lid. It was video. Jamie. Sitting on the stairs. Same hoodie. Different face. I told her I wanted to say something. He says. The camera shakes a little. She's filming. I wanted to say sorry. Not to you, Mom. To him. He doesn't look at the lens. Just past it. Past her. For saying he was a placeholder. That wasn't my line. That was yours. Her voice, off camera. Snaps. Jamie, what the hell? But he keeps going. You said it during therapy. You said, he's not your father. Just a placeholder until you're ready to accept things. I didn't even know what that meant until I saw him pack. The camera drops. There's motion, chaos, her voice rising. The video cuts out. It restarts immediately. Same night. Different room. Jamie now holding the phone himself. I know you're watching this. You always notice the things I leave lying around. He's not crying. You were better than him. The dead one. That's what this was all about, right? Not erasing him. Replacing him. But I didn't want a replacement. I wanted an ally. I wanted someone who wouldn't flinch when I made it ugly. His voice lowers. And you didn't. Not once. Even when I tried to bleed you dry with silence. Another pause. Then, I saw you outside the house. Last week. Mom didn't. But I did. His lips tighten. Then he says the words like a dare. If you don't come back, I get it. But if you don't write again, that's worse. The screen goes black. I sat in the silence for 27 minutes before I moved. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I bought a printer. I printed every receipt they sent back. Every return. Every dismissed relic of my presence. I bound them. I wrote one line on the cover. What you gave back, and what it cost. Tomorrow I'll mail it. Not to them. To his school. Attention, guidance office. I'll pay the postage myself. I don't want reconciliation. I want curriculum. Let him learn what it means when silence outlives everyone who tried to write over it. Because now, I'm not even angry. I'm just building something bigger than memory. A record of everything placeholders hold until they can't anymore. Final update. The package was delivered 2 days ago. I got confirmation from the tracking number. No signature. Just the cold click of a school secretary scanning barcodes without knowing she was handling the last chapter of a man's ghost story. I didn't expect what came next. Neil knocked around 8 a.m., unusually solemn. He handed me a padded envelope. Inside, a letter. No name. No greeting. Just, he read it. All of it. Cried for 2 hours. Said you were the only adult who ever made him feel seen when he was pretending not to be. Said he doesn't want you to forgive him. Just wants you to stop disappearing. Underneath that, a drawing. A placeholder symbol. Literally. One of those little gray silhouettes that shows up when a profile picture hasn't been uploaded yet. But it had details now. A beard. A hammer in one hand. A dragon curling around the shoulders. No caption. Just a name in bold. Shaky lettering. Real Dad. I set it on the nightstand. Then I left the room. Then the motel. Then the city. I didn't tell Neil goodbye. Didn't take my key. Just walked. I passed 5 gas stations, 3 pawn shops, and 1 dead crow in a puddle of oil that looked exactly like a Rorschach test. Probably was. I reached the edge of town and didn't stop. Somewhere around the 3rd hour, I realized something. I'm not coming back because they want me to. I'm not staying gone to teach a lesson. I'm moving forward because this whole life was written in the margins of someone else's story. And now I'm writing mine. It won't have a table of contents. Or clean chapters. Or closure. But it will have space. For new names. New laughter. New ghosts, maybe, but ones I choose to live with. I'll still remember Jamie. I'll still hear her voice sometimes in the spaces where love used to live. But I'll also remember the silence I earned. The one that doesn't beg. Doesn't plead. Doesn't forget. Just waits. Because placeholders aren't meant to be remembered. But I will be. Because I turned their forgetting into scripture. And now I walk alone, yes. But never empty. Story 2. They took the wheelchair ramp off the front porch before I got home from the hospital. No warning. No explanation. Just gone. I stood there in the rain, one crutch under my arm, leg in a brace, soaked from thigh to ankle, trying to figure out if I was supposed to crawl or fly inside. My mother came to the door, arms folded. You should have called ahead, she said, as if that justified it. As if I hadn't just spent 9 days in hospital care after a highway accident that wasn't even my fault. I was 19, a college sophomore, an honor student, and the family helper. Always have been. I'm the youngest of 3, an afterthought born nearly a decade after the golden child and the one who carried the label of struggle. My brother, 9 years older, walked on water by age 5. My sister, 12 years older, was the family focus, a veteran with deep needs that predated her service by many years. Me? I was the utility knife. Nurse, chauffeur, tutor, short order cook. If someone needed a ride to the airport, a last-minute babysitter, a tech fix, or emotional labor on demand, I was summoned like a servant with a debt. And everyone thinks I'm spoiled. That's the thing. That's the joke at every family gathering, every holiday photo op. Oh, she's the youngest. Must be spoiled rotten. I smile. I nod. I carry the trays and wash the dishes and let them believe that. But the truth? The truth is this. When I graduated high school with honors, scholarships, and 2 full ride offers, my parents celebrated by draining my savings to cover my sister's back rent. Over $6,000. Gone. I didn't even know until I went to the bank to withdraw $80 for textbooks. I stood there at the ATM staring at a balance of $9.47 while my sister posted updates from brunch. They never told me. Never apologized. When I confronted them, my mother said, well, she needed it more. She's family. As if I wasn't. They call it Southern values. Respect your elders. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Take care of family no matter what. But really, it's just misuse disguised as tradition. Let me tell you something else. I've driven my sister, who again is older than me, across states. 12 hours. 18 sometimes. I did the whole drive alone because she refused to take the wheel. She said driving hurt her nerves. Every time we'd arrive, she'd be ushered to a soft bed and told to rest. Me? I was handed the grocery list, the mop, the crying child, and a list of things to fix real quick before you rest. I'm 25 now. I own 2 small businesses. I finished school. I've played the role they wanted. Smiled when they told me I wasn't doing enough. Nodded when they praised my siblings for showing up late to a birthday party I paid for. But something changed last week. An old sports injury flared up. Sciatic nerve. The kind of pain that turns walking into a full-body protest. I could barely stand. My leg dragged like it belonged to someone else. I told my mother. She said, well, you've always been expressive. If your sister can manage, you can too. I told my father. He said, don't expect us to wait on you hand and foot just because you're tired. And that's when I realized something clear. They don't see me. Not as a person. Not as a parent. Not as a son. Just as help. They don't believe my youngest has autism. They say he's just stubborn. That he needs a firmer hand. They roll their eyes when I talk about occupational therapy. They mimic his self-soothing behaviors at the dinner table and laugh when he gets overwhelmed. And when I say I'm tired, that I need a break, they call me lazy, unreliable, ungrateful, and I've had enough. I'm standing on the edge now, looking at the ledge with my kids behind me and a clean slate in the distance. I could disappear, take them, leave no address, no forwarding info, just go. Would I be wrong for cutting them off? For taking my children and building a new life far away from people who only see me as a convenience? Would I be the heartless one for finally choosing myself? Or would it be the first time I've ever really been a parent to myself and my kids? I don't want conflict. I want peace. And I think I know what I have to do. Update 1. I didn't make a scene. No argument. No fireworks. Just a quiet decision like closing a door that had always been left cracked open. It started on a Wednesday. Laundry day. I was folding towels while my youngest son, let's call him M, spun in slow, careful circles beside me, humming softly, keeping his rhythm. I used to worry about that sound. Now I know it means he feels safe. I watched him, towel half folded, and it struck me like lightning behind my ribs. He won't survive the way they treat people. Not the way I did. He's too open. Too sincere. He feels everything. My mother says I'm too soft on him. My sister says that's just today's parenting. But they don't see the way he flinches at loud voices. The way certain clothes make him panic. The way he memorizes room layouts to find exits just in case. They don't look. They don't listen. I told them I was removing him from school to teach him at home. They laughed. You're not a teacher, my father said. You're looking for shortcuts, my sister added. Shortcuts. That's what they think this is. Not survival. Not protection. Just laziness in their minds. So I started making plans. Silently, I opened a new bank account. Something secure. Separate. Redirected my business deposits. Stashed cash in a formula container at the back of the pantry. I said no to a family visit, blaming my leg. My sister rolled her eyes. Said I was playing it up. Perfect. I found a city, a state, a neighborhood, places with programs, with kindness, with people who understood that different doesn't mean wrong. I made lists, started selling things we wouldn't need, turned goodbyes into errands. I canceled streaming subscriptions, rerouted mail, made it all look like regular spring cleaning. No one noticed. Not until I stopped saying yes. My sister called the week before we left. Can you drive me to my appointment in Savannah? I think I pulled something. She sounded annoyed, like I was her driver forgetting a shift. I said, I won't be in town. Silence. Then, what does that mean? It means you'll have to find someone else. She hung up without another word. 20 minutes later, my mother texted me. You're overreacting. Don't take things so personally. Don't take it personally. That's their family motto. Their excuse for everything. But this wasn't personal. It was survival. I blocked her number. The morning we left, the sky was gray, soft rain on the windshield. The car was packed before sunrise. My son fell asleep before we left the driveway. My daughter stared at the road like it owed her answers. I left no note, no address, just took my kids and disappeared like a shadow that got tired of staying on the wall. 12 hours later, we crossed into a new state. The air felt different, lighter. We moved into a modest 2-bedroom above a bakery. The smell of warm bread soaked into our walls. I bought noise-canceling headphones for M, a cheap digital piano for my daughter, a real desk for myself, not the kitchen table. That first night, we ate cereal on the floor and laughed about how empty it was. But it wasn't empty. It was finally quiet. A new kind of quiet. One that didn't ask me to prove myself every day. They didn't call. Not at first. For days in, my father left a voicemail. "You've made your point. Let's stop this foolishness and act like adults." Then my mother, "We're worried about the kids. Don't force us to get involved." That's how they operate. Not with concern. With control. But I wasn't scared. Because for the first time I wasn't alone. I was enough. And the world we were building, it didn't need approval to be real. Update 2. 3 weeks out, I told them we were visiting friends for the summer. My sister scoffed. "That sounds made up." My father said, "Don't expect us to babysit the house." No one asked where we were going. No one asked why. I gave them just enough to feel in control. They didn't realize I'd already let go of the leash. That final week, I started moving in plain sight. Sold what I could. Donated the rest. Left boxes on the curb with handwritten signs. "Take what you need." I told the school we were transferring out. Said we needed a new environment for personal reasons. They handed me the paperwork without asking questions. I told my kids we were starting a new chapter. Not a vacation, something better. My daughter, who notices everything, asked, "Are we running away?" I said, "No, we're moving toward peace." She nodded like she'd been waiting for it all along. Then came the last call. My sister again. "I need a ride. My shoulder's acting up." She said it like a dare. Like I wouldn't have the nerve to say no. "I can't," I said. "We're leaving tomorrow." Another pause. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we won't be here anymore." She didn't respond. Just hung up. An hour later, my mother texted, "You're being dramatic. Nobody's asking that much of you." They always said that. Even when I was waking up at 4 a.m. to drive them, skipping my own doctor appointments to help them, covering bills with my savings. They call it not that much, because they never had to carry it. That night, I deleted every group chat. Blocked every number except my brother's. He doesn't say much, but he's never tried to control me. We left before sunrise. The drive was long, but I didn't stop unless we had to. My son fell asleep humming to himself, legs curled up in the back seat like a question mark. My daughter watched the highway signs with quiet focus. We crossed state lines just before sunset. The new apartment was small but real. Ours. The kind of place where the silence didn't feel dangerous. I unpacked one suitcase, hung blackout curtains, set up M's weighted blanket and sensory lights before doing anything else. The neighbors smiled when they saw us but didn't ask questions. The school staff listened when I talked about my son's diagnosis. Took notes. Nodded like people who understand what it means to raise a child whose world looks different. The first time I picked him up, he didn't have a meltdown. That alone felt like victory. I bought a cheap sofa from a thrift store. Somehow, sitting on it felt better than any furniture in my parents' house. Because no one here expected me to be anything but tired and trying. A few days later, the calls came back. Blocked numbers. Unknown names. My father left another message. "This is childish. Come home." My mother followed with, "You'll regret this when the money runs out." That's what they believe, that I'm temporary. That my strength has an expiration date. But here's what they don't know. Peace is fuel. So is freedom. Every time I watch my daughter smile without looking over her shoulder, I gain another day's worth of energy. Every time my son finishes a meal without being told he's too picky, my spine straightens. We're not thriving yet, but we're not scared anymore. And that's worth every goodbye. Update 3. The letters started 2 weeks later. Not handwritten. Not heartfelt. Printed. Formal. From a legal office whose name I recognized from one of my parents' connections. The envelope title read, "Family Well-Being Concern." They weren't worried about the children. They were worried about losing control. Inside was a request for my current address, a vague suggestion of mediation, and one sentence that made my chest tighten. "It is in the best interest of the minors to remain near their extended family where they can benefit from emotional continuity and support." Support? The same support that taught me not to cry? The same stability that took money from my college account and blamed me for noticing? I read the letter once, then shredded it slowly over the sink. Let me be clear. They don't want custody. They want proximity. They want access. A way to get back in and remind me who's in charge. So I mailed them something back. No return address. Just a photo. My son M smiling at his new center. Covered in shaving cream, writing letters on a mirror. His teacher standing beside him, beaming. I wrote one sentence underneath, "You were wrong." Then I blocked their legal contact. They tried again through extended family. One cousin forwarded me a screenshot from a group chat I hadn't seen in years. My sister was typing in all caps. "She's playing perfect mom now. Let's see how long she lasts when her freedom gets expensive." They were waiting for me to fail. That's all I ever was to them, a reliable collapse waiting to happen. But I didn't collapse. I grew roots. That week, my daughter brought home a drawing from school, a sketch of our apartment, 2 bedrooms, our crooked floor lamp, a caption in crayon, "Home." It hit harder than any voicemail. Because that word? I never associated it with my parents' house. Not once. Now when I hear home, I think of bedtime routines without guilt. M's light-up stars. My daughter's piano keys. The next day, I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from since high school. "I ran into your mom," they wrote. "She said you joined some new age peace cult and moved away from reality. She made it sound like you were unstable." I laughed out loud. They're not wrong. I did join something. It's called self-respect. It's called choosing calm over chaos. And if that makes me an outsider in their world, then good. Let them whisper. I'm busy building something real. My daughter has stopped asking if we'll have to go back. M hums more often now. He's starting to say, "I feel better" when something upsets him. And I'm not angry. Not anymore. Because some endings don't need fire. They need a locked door. They need silence. They need the kind of peace that makes old voices sound like static. I didn't escape. I just stepped into the life I should have had all along. One without apology. One without fear. And every time I think about them walking through that big old house, wondering why their calls go unanswered, I remember this. I was never the ungrateful one. I was just the first to leave the table when the food turned bitter. Let them keep their version of the story. We're living the truth. And it's quiet here. Beautifully, permanently quiet.